Hello and welcome to In the Studio episode 73. So today I finished a new track and it got me thinking that it would be interesting to talk a little bit about how to go from a basic loop or a basic idea all the way to a finished product. So what I'm going to do in this video is run you through my phases of production and why I do things the way I do and how I go from start to finish. So the project that we're in right now is my initial ideas phase, or phase one. So in this phase, what I'm doing is picking out samples that I think will work well together and that fit the vibe that I'm after. I'm doing a lot of sound design, doing some modulation on parts to make them more interesting, and just kind of putting together a basic, 8-bar, 4-bar groove, 16 bars that you want to take further. It is important to note here that it's really easy to overdevelop your basic idea and get stuck in it. So you don't need to have all the effects in there. You just need to have the core foundation of a track. And so what I'll actually tend to do here is build 4 or 5 grooves like this and then let them sit for a week or so and then come back and listen to them and kind of decide which one I like the best and which one I want to finish. So with that being said, I'm going to pause the video here for a second and I'll see you in phase 2. All right, so now we're in phase 2, which is the arrangement phase. This is where the bulk of the work is done. As you can see, there's quite a bit going on and lots of stuff happening in the mixer. So I mean, in this phase, I'm doing all the automation work. I'm making effects. I'm doing variations on parts. I'm doing a little bit more mixing. We're doing adding in parts as needed. And just, yeah, this is where the bulk of the work is done. But the reason I like to make a whole new project for the arrangement phase is if I do want to go back to, my initial ideas phase, then I have it there. There's not a bunch of automation and shit, and it's just a nice clean loop to go back to if I need to do that. And also what I do, excuse me, before I start arranging the track out in this project is I'll bounce all my parts out for the most part. I might leave a couple running live that I'm not sure what I'm going to do with yet. But pretty much all the parts I like to bounce them out. Just to save a little bit on processing and just to commit to them so I'm not fiddling around endlessly. And that way you can also put them into your own sample folder and have them for future tracks ready to go in a future production. So phase 2 is the arrangement phase. Now let's pause the video again here and I'll see you in phase 3. All right, now we're in phase 3, which is the mixdown phase. After I have the arrangement project sounding just the way I want it to, what I do then is I bounce out all the stems and I pull it into a brand new project and I rebuild the track from scratch. Maybe some of you are wondering why I would do that. Sounds like a lot more work. It is a lot more work, but what it does is it gives you a chance to move from the creative mindset and the arrangement phase. When you're making parts, you're just generally being more creative, into the technical phase where you're focused on getting the levels right, the mixing just right. So I think that it's valuable to kind of switch gears like that, and moving everything to a new project and rebuilding the track really helps you do that. It also gives you a chance to double check your work to make sure that all of your tracks are sounding exactly the way you want them to. As you could see here, I always end up making little tweaks and edits in this mixdown phase. You can see there's a little bit of automation. I've actually added a few parts. I've made it a couple edits and variations here and there. I mean, I didn't always used to do this. I used to just work in the arrangement project and finish the mix down there. But ever since I started doing this, a few years ago, I really feel that it's taken my tracks to the next step. It is more work, but if you're serious about your music, I definitely invite you to try it out. Um, so yeah, once I have this mixed down sounding the way I want it to, and I'm happy with it, then it's time to bounce out a pre-master. And you want to make sure that there's no processing on your master channel. You want to make sure that you have at least 6 dB of headroom. And then if you're going to master the track yourself, I would let it sit for a couple weeks before you come at it, so you could have, a fresher approach. Or you can send it off to a mastering engineer or someone who is capable of mastering. You could do it that way too, which is actually the route I personally like to take, just because I get so attached to the songs. Um, I do know how to master, and I have mastered my own tracks, but I just like to let someone else who hasn't listened to it 1,000 times master it. So yeah, that's kind of my process. And if you just wanted to do a quick little DJ master just to test it out in the club, then I would just do it in this project here. Just some basic, maybe a little basic EQ work, some compression, maybe a little saturation or distortion, and just some basic limiting should suffice to play it out in the club, so you can test it out. So yeah, that's my kind of my phases of production, how I get from start to finish. If you have any questions or comments, please hit me up. Do love to hear from you, and I will see you very soon. Take care.